and welcome back to Infamous Indy. I'm your host, That Dead Girl, and if this is your first time joining me here, basically what I do is I sit down with you all and I share with you a true crime story from my home state of Indiana. So I have a bit of a shorter story for you all this week. Originally, I think I had intended this story to be like a YouTube short or a kind of TikTok type thing for Christmas. But with the holidays and everything like that, obviously I got a little busy, so I actually didn't film it in time. But since this case has gone unsolved for more than 4 decades, I did want to share it with you all. So, like I said, this is going to be a quick one, so just hang in there with me. This is the story of Lynda McDaniels and the Christmas Ribbon Killer. Lynda McDaniel grew up on the west side of Indianapolis. Lynda actually came from a very long line of educators and administrators, and she was very passionate about someday becoming a teacher herself. It's said that Lynda was a very motivated student. She was even a member of the National Honor Society, and she also played bassoon with the Ben Davis High School Band. Lynda would go on to graduate from Ben Davis High School in 1972. After graduating high school, Lynda would go on to college and she would end up studying elementary education at IUPUI. She also kept a part-time job at Sears Automotive while she worked her way through college. For about a year after she obtained her degree, she would actually go on to be a substitute teacher until she landed a full-time teaching position at Maplewood Elementary School for the 1977-1978 school year. Lynda had achieved her dream of becoming a teacher, and now she was even starting to date in hopes that she would meet someone and they would get married and she could start a family of her own. But sadly, on the evening of November 30th, 1977, all of Lynda's hopes and dreams would be shattered. So the evening kind of starts off with Lynda in her apartment making Christmas decorations for her students at Maplewood Elementary. And while she's crafting or whatnot, she's also having a conversation with a close girlfriend over the phone. Lynda would go on to tell this girlfriend that she was actually expecting company this evening. And it was actually a man that she had previously gone out on a date with, but the date actually didn't end very well, as Lynda claimed that this man allegedly tried to assault her. So anyway, Lynda's telling her friend this, and her friend immediately is like, whoa, red flag, why are you letting this man into your home? She cautioned Lynda and basically kind of begged her to not let this man come over. Lynda simply told her friend not to worry, that the man only wanted to come over to apologize for his behavior on their previous date, and that she was sure there was nothing to worry about. And it is important to note that during this phone conversation, Lynda's friend never actually receives the name of this mysterious man. Fast forward to the next morning, which was Thursday, December 1st, 1977, and the normally punctual Lynda had failed to show up for work at Maplewood Elementary. The principal of Maplewood Elementary, Lynda's boss, obviously he became very concerned because, like I said, it's very unlike Lynda to just not show up, not call, or anything like that. So he places a phone call and he actually gets a hold of Lynda's Aunt Mary McClelland. So he kind of tells Lynda's Aunt Mary what's going on. So Mary decides that she will give Lynda a call herself. Mary calls Lynda, and of course, there's no answer. So Mary then decides to just go over to Lynda's apartment and pay her a visit just to check up on her and make sure everything's okay. Mary arrives at Lynda's apartment and she begins to knock on the door. Obviously, again, there's no answer, so Mary actually tries to open the door, but finds that the door is actually locked. Mary then went to the office of the apartment complex and retrieved a maintenance man to help her gain access to Lynda's apartment. Once the two were inside, they saw no signs of Lynda, but did notice that her dining room table was full of Christmas crafts, basically, possibly things that she could have been making for her students. Mary also noticed that the bathroom door was closed and locked, which just came off as very odd to her. The maintenance man forces the door open, And they step inside the bathroom to find Lynda clad only in her underwear, and her body was placed in a kneeling position over the side of her bathtub. Lynda's head was submerged in about 8 inches of water, and her hands were bound behind her back with red Christmas curling ribbon. The same Christmas ribbon that she had been using earlier in that evening to make Christmas decorations for her students. And Lynda Mcdaniels was just 23 years old at this time, and obviously it was very shocking not only to friends and family of Lynda, but also to the community as well. When this investigation began, they really did not have a lot to go on. As I said, Lynda was very well liked, very well loved, and didn't have any enemies really. And although they didn't have very many leads, they actually ended up dubbing the suspect the Christmas Ribbon Killer due to the way that Lynda's body was found. An autopsy was conducted, and the autopsy determined that Lynda's actual cause of death had been asphyxiation. It also determined that Lynda was already dead when her hands were tied behind her back and when her head was placed into the water as well. Several family members went on to say that Lynda served as kind of a magnet for lost souls or, people in a crisis or turmoil. And it said that she would often allow these people to come into her home. And as I said earlier, during this time in Lynda's life, she was actually dating pretty frequently. And a couple of her previous boyfriends actually ended up being persons of interest very early on. But eventually, these boyfriends were eliminated as suspects, and the case kind of was just at a standstill. The friend that Lynda had been speaking with on the phone that evening did come forward, and she did let police know about her conversation with Lynda and about this mysterious visitor that Lynda had been expecting. So, really, there hasn't been very many developments in this case at all, which really just intrigued me because I feel like the way Lynda's body was found was pretty brutal. Honestly, you think that police during that time would have done everything they could have to track this person down. But as I mentioned earlier on in the video, this case has gone unsolved for more than 40 years. And I really just did want to share with you all this story, no matter how short it may be. And I did want to talk about the most recent developments in this case that I was able to find. In 2014, this investigation was actually taken over by Sergeant Bill Carter of the IMPD. And from everything I've read about this Sergeant Bill Carter, he's sort of a take charge, take action type of guy. And almost immediately, Bill Carter is interested in pursuing this mysterious man who was supposed to visit Lynda's apartment on the night that she was murdered. Unfortunately, he found it very hard to kind of corroborate or, rule the story out because the friend who had actually made the statement sadly had passed away. And if you'll remember, she never was able to get a name from Lynda. So, no name, no witness, basically kind of a dead end. Bill Carter was also interested in pursuing a couple of men that Lynda had previously worked with at Sears Automotive. Apparently, there had been several gaps in their alibis, but at the time, there was not enough evidence to arrest or detain them. And in this instance, both of these men have died as well, but Bill Carter hopes that these men's children might come forward and give a DNA sample. And basically, he just wants that to compare to some of the evidence that was found inside of Lynda's apartment. And speaking of the evidence, Carter was very hopeful about getting all of that evidence that was previously collected reanalyzed. And I'd say about 3 years after Lynda's murder, the FBI actually did come up with a profile of what they thought this suspect may look like and what he may have been thinking or going through at the time of the murder. They believe the suspect to be a white male aged 35 to 40 during the time of the crime. They kind of theorized that this suspect was most likely married, but probably having marital problems during this time. They also thought that this person could have been someone who frequented bars, but not necessarily someone who had any previous criminal history. They also strongly believed that whoever this person was, they had had access or been inside of Lynda McDaniel's apartment before. So obviously Lynda had lots of neighbors. I'm sure that there was a struggle. I'm sure people heard screams. They had to have heard something. So in researching this, even though I found very little information about the case, to be honest, it just intrigued me even more because it is unsolved and it was such a brutal crime. And I feel like I say this a lot, but it kind of feels like there wasn't a lot of effort put forth in trying to solve her murder. And with that being said, I always feel like it's of the utmost importance to give a voice to the voiceless. As you can see, like I said, investigators don't really have much to go on, and a lot of the witnesses that were around at that time have since passed away, making it that much harder to solve this case. So I decided to go ahead and make this video anyway, because even if there is a slim chance that somebody out there who was around during that time or knew someone who was, here's this story, who knows, maybe it could spark an old memory or an old story someone may have heard. At this point, any tip or any information can be useful in this case. In my opinion, no one deserves to just disappear or have their life taken and leave their family and loved ones behind without any sort of closure. I'm also pretty big on justice, if you haven't noticed, so the fact that this person literally got away with murder just really grinds my gears. So basically, to sum up this story, one big question remains, who killed Lynda McDaniel and why? If you have any information on this case or know someone who might, I am going to post um, some resources and contact info at the end of this video. So at the end of the video, I will make sure to get all of those on the screen to where everybody can see them. And hey, even if you have no information about this case, maybe you have information about another case, and maybe those numbers can come in handy for you. Thank you for dropping in to hang out with me for this very short but very sad story. As always, thank you guys for watching, and if you haven't already, please do not forget to like and subscribe to my channel for all of the latest content. And if you like what I do here at Infamous Indy, always feel free to share my content with people who love true crime as much as I do. I'll have another video out for you guys this week as well as this one. I will be dropping part 1 of the disappearance of Lauren Spearer. And that will be a multi-part series just because there is a lot to unpack there. So definitely be on the lookout for part 1 of that story, and I will be making some announcements within the next week about what my next stories will be. And as always, don't forget to stay spooky, keep it creepy, and watch your back because it's a crazy fucking world out there.